You invite if I get up, do you want me to turn off the camera?
Nah, that'll be all right.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, y'all. This is the Hillbilly Think Tank with Spencer Keck, and I've got two guests tonight. We've got Deloy Shaw, also an independent duty corpsman, retired like myself. And we've got Liz here, Chief Liz, we should say. How's it going, Liz?
Not bad. How y'all doing?
All right. Glad to see the link. Finally
What's
worked.
up, homie?
And let's see.
Get the
We might
gang
have
back
one
together
more
again.
come on later. That's
Careful
right.
what you say.
Hopefully. Well, y'all, I just want to ask you something right outside the gate. You know, when you go to that gas station and you pump that gas, do you still wince a little when the number rolls past $40, past 50, past 75, like it did last night when I pumped some gas for Lupe because I had to go fill up her truck? Or do you stand there quietly and do the math in your head and think about what else that money was supposed to go to? You know, if you do, I see you, because I did the same thing. Like I said last night, I have an electric vehicle, but I had to pump some gas for my wife, and that hurt.
Right.
What do you guys think?
I mean, me personally, I don't do either. I
No?
cuss out loud that we have such shitty ass people leading our country.
Well,
I don't wince a little bit. I just say this motherfucker has got me fucked up. It's disgusting. I haven't left home in like almost a week.
well, you know, like I said, guys, I am Spencer Keck. I am the Hillbilly Think Tank. No, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. There have been educated, erudite, and emancipated hillbillies in them here hills ever since my family came through Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone eons ago. I'm one of the Cumberland Gap originals. But I'm also a public school teacher here in Hardin County. I'm a 24-year military veteran, and I'm a combat veteran of the first Gulf War and of Afghanistan. I was in OEF. I spent 7 years working at the VA once I retired from the military, and I am a candidate for Hardin County District 3 Magistrate in November. I will be on your ballot. So today I want to talk to you about something that I carried with me from a Navy ship in the Persian Gulf to that battlefield with the Marine Corps infantry in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and now into schoolroom where I teach in JCPS. And I originally started off teaching right here in Hardin County. I want to talk about what it means to me to have just enough resources and how you make them stretch far enough to keep people who are counting on you alive, healthy, and whole. Because this is exactly what the county needs right now. And that's just here in segment one. You guys want to give them a little background on what you think an IDC does and how we stretched resources back in the day?
You got this one, D.
Oh my God, where can I start?
Right?
An independent duty corpsman is a all-around trained Navy. Got to say Navy. Or
Coastie.
Coast Guard.
That's right.
Now, that is trained to be able to handle everything and anything at the same time. You have to be organized. You can try to be as organized as you want, but the chaos will happen. The
There you
chaos
go.
will come because
Yep.
everything and anything is needed of the doc. Um, but if you have a team that you work with, or if you are smart enough to uh, pass down to your fellow coworkers, your shipmates or Marines, things that will get them by, that can help them, which eventually helps you. Um, do self-care. Um,
Mm.
we're doing preventive medicine in all aspects. We're doing self-care where we're teaching them, hey, this is how you put your shoes on. Hey, you might have new shoes. Let it sit for a day underwater and then have it sit out in the sun so it kind of molds itself to your feet. We teach them what to expect. It's I hate I hate sitting here comparing it to like a mother and a child, um, and watching them grow, but that's pretty much what it is.
And,
You're getting them to that point where they kind of where they're self-reliant, um,
ex-
but you're
exactly.
always there.
And
Uh,
here in this county, of course, in Hardin County, we've got Fort Knox right here. You said you've driven through here before, right, Deloy?
oh yes,
So
yes.
I want folks here, that our Army brothers and sisters understand. Yeah, we are the Navy and Marine Corps medic. So I'll use medic and corpsman interchangeable, although a corpsman would never dream of calling themselves a medic. But so what is an independent duty hospital corpsman? Well, let me start by telling you something about myself that most people in this county probably don't know, unless you've served with Navy or Marines. And this is exactly what Deloy was just talking about. That's what a corpsman does. But an independent duty corpsman, they take it even a step further. A lot of people haven't heard of that. We called it IDC for short. You might picture a Navy corpsman. Again, like I said, use the term medic interchangeably if you want, but we call ourselves corpsman. And think, okay, someone who hands out aspirin, Tylenol, Motrin, the vitamin M for Marines and Army, right? And puts on bandages aboard a ship. And I mean, hey, no disrespect to the fine enlisted folks who do exactly that, but the job of an independent corpsman is much harder than that and much harder than it looks, because an IDC does something different, something way much more. An independent duty corpsman is the only medical officer, even though we're enlisted, assigned to a ship or a remote duty station, or in my case, special operations Marine team. Liz, you did some Marine teams also, right?
Mm-hmm. I served
And
8 years with the Marines, 3 with the CBs, 4 with NSW,
Naval
and
Special Warfare, for those who don't know what
mhm,
that means. Yeah. And
yep.
Deloy, you got some Marine time too, right?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Didn't
Half of
we
my
all?
career has been Marines, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's damn near 21 years, but half of it with Marines.
Hell
Of
Uh,
yeah.
course, if you're an independent duty corpsman at Corps School, I mean, independent duty Corps School, that is, because we had to go to Corps School years before that. They like to say, oh, the pinnacle of it is as a small shipboard IDC. And yeah, that was one of my toughest missions, but I really
Fuck
think
that.
doing with, yeah, well, and I did all the above except for submarines. I didn't get to do CBs like you did, Liz. I wish I had, but you said I don't.
You didn't miss anything, trust me.
I just love Greenside. The side been out there
They're
at the
just like
infantry.
Marines. No, they're not.
Exactly. But again, there was no doctor above me, and there was no doctor above you guys. There was no physician on the other side of a door that we could go running to. When a sailor goes down, man, when there's a trauma, a cardiac event, a surgical emergency, a site crisis, a disease outbreak, a dental catastrophe. I had when I was up in the Arctic Circle, I had a gal. She got an infection in her tooth. Took her to a Canadian dentist. Canadian dentist didn't do it right. That was the only thing I've ever seen wrong with Canadian medicine, because everything else is great. I had to pump her full of antibiotics from Canada all the way back to, well, Newfoundland, Canada, all the way back to Norfolk. And they told her, and we pulled in late, and they called in the duty dentist, that if I hadn't been giving her all those IVs, it would have gone to her brain. She would have died. So that's what we do, full stop. We are it. There's a lot more to it than that, because we're also the health department. We're the food inspector, the kitchen inspector. We inspect all the cooks, all the people who help the cooks. As we talked about before, Liz and I talked about this a little bit on here. We're in charge of going down into the deepest spots on the ship where it's the hottest in the engineering spaces, making sure they're not working too hard and stroking out from heat stroke, doing wet bulb thermometer or globes tests, and quite a bit of stuff that goes along with that. So the Navy.
I did a wet bulb in Iraq one time, and it was 144 degrees.
So what was your work time, rest time?
We didn't have one. We're doing stuff.
So no
and
black
they were
flag
wearing
time.
full kit too, so we
Well,
couldn't stop.
There you go. Well, the Navy trained us course also in anatomy and physiology, physical diagnosis, clinical lab work, pharmacy, surgical and dental emergencies, like I was talking about earlier. But then another thing that didn't talk about is preventive medicine, food service sanitation, dive medicine to a bit, combat casualty care, advanced cardiac life support, not just the basics, but truly advanced cardiac life support and more. We become basic life support instructors, not just practitioners, because I think when you mentioned it earlier, you were mentioning it, right, Deloy? You've got to train the whole ship to be able to do first aid, emergency aid when there's a major casualty, or the whole Marine Corps team. They can't just rely on the independent duty corpsman or the junior corpsman to do the work. So the crew has to help a lot of times, and we carry a national provider identification number, just like family doctors do. The family practitioners or your nurse practitioner. When you go see your doctor, they have that national provider identification number. We had them too as IDCs, because we could perform minor surgeries. We often did. We prescribe medicine, and we order diagnostic studies, and then we consult with specialists, just like a regular family practitioner or ER doc. But we do all this from a ship in the middle of the ocean or somewhere in the desert or jungle, right, with Marines or Seabees, middle of nowhere.
On the spot.
On the spot, Johnny on the spot. That's it.
We don't deploy to nice places.
And there's no appointment. No appointment needed.
No.
That's it. Oh, man. You say we don't deploy to nice places, but, oh, man. Sometimes I did, but mostly no.
Yeah, mostly no. To your point, IDCs, we heard this over and over again in school. We are required to be inherent leaders. Obviously there's people with different personalities that come through the school, but what do you have to do on the ship, or what do we have to do out in the field? If there is some sort of emergency, we have to step up as, if there's not a medical officer with us, we have to step up and say, this is what's going on. This is going to be the result, or here are your options of action,
on the small destroyer. Well, the destroyer is not super small, 300 some, 350. I'm trying to remember how big the crew was.
Yeah, 350.
So it's not a small ship like a minesweeper boat, but there was no doctor. When I was up in the Arctic Circle, no doctor at all around. But the Navy's own Bureau of Medicine called the IDC position one of the most responsible and challenging enlisted assignments in the armed forces. And of course, I'm not saying that to brag, but we could.
We have a very well-respected lineage. I mean, those who have gone before us have done amazing things, and we could ever only hope to live up to what they've done.
Exactly. I mean, and we could sit here and tell sea stories forever, but You know, the real thing I want everybody to understand that's, watching this is, this is a way that I think, and that as Liz was saying, we were trained to think. Every single day of my independent duty corpsman career, I walked into a situation where the resources were limited, the pressure was real, the stakes were life and death. I mean, that's not just being hyperbolic; they truly were, and I had to find a way to make it work for the people counting on me. And this is exactly the skill set Hardin County needs in its next magistrate. And, so that's why I brought my dear friends on here, to attest to the fact that you just said it, Liz. You have to be able to deal with multiple types of personalities that you come across and lead from the front, from the rear, from wherever is required to get folks to come together and do the right thing for the mission, for the whole ship, for the nation,
And like Deloitte said, you must be organized. And I think, leadership and organization are extremely beneficial in a magistrate position, in any public service position. I would want to touch on the fact that you've always served others. I believe in servant leadership. I cuss a lot and I'm really rowdy, but I believe in servant leadership.
Amen. I picked that up, and to me, that's what I judge character on. If someone tells me they want to be my leader, they want to be my politician, are you there to serve yourself? Are you there to be a servant leader?
Right.
Is it all about being braggadocious, or is it about?
Are you going to do some insider training?
Exactly.
And enrich yourself, or are you going to help others?
We're gonna come back to that and hit that hard here in a second. You see, that's exactly what we got to talk about. But so I'm going to our third segment here. If you don't mind, we'll take a little dog break. But this segment, I call it From the Gulf to Afghanistan. This is a life of service, just like you hit on, Liz. But let's take a little puppy break. I've got a few frolicking videos I like to pop out for break time and see, if you guys later maybe want to send some in, but you saw some in the beginning there. I thought they were kind of funny, but here's one of my favorites. Across country, refrigerated truck. And third, they take all and cook than modern bush beans. In the 50s and 60s, convenience became king, and TV did it. Soaking overnight, got laid old-fashioned means it actually works. Your great-grandfather didn't grow scallop runners because they were tender. He grew them because when the bank foreclosed on farms across the... All right, we're back. Let's give a quick shout out to Ding. I see Ding's on there. One of my students has just graduated.
Oh, good for him.
Say hello to him if he's there, yeah. Well, I say graduated. He moved on from 7th to 8th. The full picture who they'd be voting for when they, if they hopefully vote for me in November, because I think, context matters, is I enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1990. I went to MEPS in Louisville and, shipped out from there. So I was in the Gulf War in 1991. I was in boot camp when Saddam Hussein invaded. And I remember, Deloitte, for some reason, you look a lot like my, he's off cooking some food. Deloitte reminds me a lot of my bunkmate, but I remember middle of the night after the announcement, that we were going to be going to war, we heard that. I heard someone sobbing, and I, rolled over and looked down. My bunkmate was, crying. This was July, I think, or August of 1990. I'm like, hey, what's up? And this guy's like, hey, he was like, my brother. You get a twin brother. It's like, my brother's a Marine. I know he's all gung ho. He's going to go over there and try to be a hero and get killed. And that really brought it home. Like, oh crap, yeah.
This is real.
Yeah, this is for real, And before too long, I was in that first Gulf War in 1991 and Operation Desert Storm. So,
There's
of course,
proof on the cover of a book.
that was the next one. That was one after this one. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But I was there and we pushed Saddam Hussein's forces out of Kuwait. I was actually at that time on a guided missile, fast frigate guided missile, fast frigate. And so we had a really large sonar dome, and we actually spent a lot of time escorting ships in and out of that Gulf of Hormuz, and they're in the Persian Gulf because it was full of mines. So we were doing basically mine sweeping operations. We came back with it's either 14 or 16 mines painted on our hull. We came close to hitting so many. We were there in the Tripoli. I'm trying to think the name of those ship that got hit, one night right in the same waters we've been operating and pulling mines out in. So next, then I saw what war looks like up close. I saw what it costs. But then this is what you were talking about. 10 years later, the world changed on a Tuesday morning here in America. It was a little different time and date where I was in Darwin, Australia, when the attack had happened late at night there. And,
you were in Australia?
Yeah.
Nice.
We had been training in the outback, and we had just come in that morning. My platoon had. We'd been the first ones in. We were allowed to be the first ones out. The rest of the company and battalion was still out there. But that's where I was. So we went to East Timor for a day or two because we already been scheduled to. They were killing each other there. We wanted to try to do a little bit of promised help before we headed straight up to the coast of Pakistan. Went into Pakistan, set up the airfield there. The Air Force's PJs we're going to use. We were there, but we weren't there because there weren't supposed to be any combatant troops in Pakistan. But the Air Force was too scared to go in and into a hostile zone and set up a place for their aircraft to come in and land. So we did that. Plus, I hear that Marines make cheaper German Shepherds than German Shepherds.
Yeah, they want the Marines to pull security. It makes sense.
We did a good job. They were coming over the fence because the Packies knew we were there, and so they were coming over the walls, and you hear rat-a-tat-tat at night when the fighting hole. But anywho, next we went into Afghanistan. So that was September 2001. Of course, I was back in action. I served in combat in Afghanistan from September 2001 to early 2002, and we were the first wave. We were actually the group that had, remember old Johnny Walker, the American that had been there, the American Taliban? He was in Afghanistan training folks there to, he had radicalized himself. He was from California. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway. So we had him in our camp after he was, captured along with other folks, and then they flew him back to the Peleliu. He was in our brig for a bit, and then CIA took him elsewhere. But anywho, that was, like I said, that was the first wave. And back in those days, we didn't know exactly what we were walking into when the mission was being written in real time. When, of course, every decision mattered. Long short, story made short. I served in the U.S. Navy from 1990 to 2014, and I was never a politician. I was never a wealthy man's son looking for a photo opportunity for sure in uniform. I don't think any of us were here. No. I was just a working sailor and corpsman who went where my country sent me, and I did what my country needed me to do, and I did it honorably. And I did it with as much courage and commitment as is deep within me. And there's, that's where it has to reside, of course. Now, when I retired in 2014, I went to work for the Department of Veterans Affairs from 2015 to 2021. Guys, it sounds really.
Yeah, you're getting some feedback.
I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here.
I don't hear it.
Other stuff away. Yeah.
And
so, I spent 6 years in the VA, a little bit of time in between in Homeland Security and immigration, but then that ended that at the VA, and that was just time helping men and women who came after me, and the ones who came before me, of course, even the Vietnam vets too, and others get the care that they earned. And I watched some of them fight the VA bureaucracy just as hard as they'd ever fought in the combat zone. And I fought right alongside them because that's what you do for your people. And then in 2021, I came home to Kentucky and I came to Hardin County to become a public school teacher. So did that for 2 years. Then I realized, man, I want to make sure that I can still keep on serving, but I don't want a conflict of interest. So I switched over to teaching Jefferson County Public Schools over there in the southern part of Louisville, Valley Station. And I became the public school teacher just because I really believe that there are kids who need what I missed growing up. Because, coming from a mom who decided to, for some reason, go down a strange path with someone she met from Texas, and that started homeschooling us, and I missed out a lot of education. And that really, I had to do a lot of catch up, before I could join the Navy. But I joined with a really high ASVAB score, so that helped a lot. When it came time to go into independent duty corpsman school like we did together.
We were in a study group together for that entire year.
Yes, we were.
Absolutely.
Our kids were playing together.
Yeah.
That was insane. That school is insane.
But it did give
It really
us
was.
foundations, a lot of foundation. It built us, it helped build us with character. It brought out what we needed to be able to have that. That I don't want to say pride, but to kill the self-doubt.
Yes.
And when you made that call, you had to make it, and it wasn't just for your being, but for the good of the person you're trying to treat. So, I took it, and then I look back on it, no regrets at all.
No regrets. Hell no,
and,
that was a good ride.
Yeah, good and hard though. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, I do want to point out, listening to what you're saying, you have chosen the life of service, but you also have chosen jobs where the occupational hazards far outweigh the pay. You know
Very
what I
true.
mean? Like, we were all willing to give our lives in the military because that's what you do. Like, things have changed. More people are like coming in for school and
Exactly.
and stuff like that. But like September 11, 2001, I was between duty stations. I was going to a clinic, China Lake of all places, and I didn't even have a TV. A neighbor brought me an extra TV.
Oh,
I
wow.
watched the second plane hit, and I was on leave. I put my clothes on. I went to the clinic, and I was like, "What's up, dog? Like, when are we leaving?" And I'll never forget it. First class X-ray tech. She's like, "What are you talking about? This is a clinic. Go home." And I was like, "Go home? Like, this is like." What? I felt like it was a national uprising almost. Like, we're going now, and I'm on board with that shit. Like, let's do it. And no, they did not need me to go anywhere. So that's my September 11th story. That was like my third duty station. I had just left two Marine. I was with the first Marine Air Wing, and then I went to Camp Pendleton for 2 years, and then I went to China Lake, and I was just like so shocked, like we weren't going to do anything. But anyways, yeah, so being a teacher, teachers don't get paid enough.
No, not at all.
The VA, I don't know how much they get paid, but I imagine it's not a whole lot because
it's about the same as
stay.
school teacher.
So you're You accept a lot of responsibility, a lot of occupational hazard, and you always have your entire life. So that does say something about your work ethic, your ability to stick around, your leadership. That says something about you. And military folks are very good for public service because a lot of us embody those things.
Well, I appreciate that immensely. And you
I have
know,
respect for you, otherwise I wouldn't be here. You know that.
thank you so much. And you know, I haven't found the camaraderie in other jobs since I left the military, as I found now working in a really a school that where the students really struggle. You know, this is a lot of mostly inner cities kids. There are a lot of bussed in from the west end of Louisville, which is man, they've got a lot of stuff that they struggle through and with. So it's that battle that the teachers that are there at that school, they're there because they really want to help kids,
Yeah.
not because of any other reason. And so I think that is the first time I've felt like I'm in the trenches again, and that got that camaraderie. And we hang out after class even. I didn't have that at the other school I taught at before. But every day I stand in front of kids whose parents, they're working themselves to the bone. Kids who go home to dinner tables where their conversations, I know that's got to be about money, about bills, about, oh, what got cut this month so something else could get paid, especially now since that, gas price have just gone sky high. And
Unless you're a January 6er, then you just get free money, apparently.
That's right. And then you just got your stipend, right? $1 million.
Really, really.
I'm just saying, like, what timeline are we really in here?
That's right. But I also know this county, and I know these people here in this county because I'm one of them. And I know that we're not a bunch of trust fund babies here, So it's working class folks. A lot of veterans here, guys. We have the highest per capita amount of veterans of any county in Kentucky, and actually one of the highest in the nation. So that's pretty.
I am surprised. I will say that
honor.
Because, I mean, everywhere else is pretty expensive to live. The cost of living is high. The food prices are high. You already talked about the gas.
Yep.
Just electricity is going through the roof.
Yes,
and
it is.
Like there's no help, and people
That's
aren't seeing this. They're giving up what they like in order to make ends meet, to try and get something else. Oh, I'm not going to drive that much, or I'm not going to buy, this healthy food because I'm not going to have enough to make it.
That's just key right there.
So I appreciate you for taking the time, because I mean you've shown that you're dedicated to what you've done for other people. I'm shocked that you went through a public school and then you switched over. I mean that's awesome, because I will say it is rough. It is rough in these schools. These kids, the way they learn, they want somebody that has the experience. Someone, a fresh graduate out of college, trying to teach kids how life is. I mean, you have to relate.
That's just it. And you nailed on the head, because as someone who has experience like we do, we know how important that education is.
Absolutely. And where it can take you.
Yeah.
If you show them
and
you
kick us
guide
off,
them
and can you guys still hear me?
What's that?
Can you still hear me?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Like I was saying, if you show them and you guide them into the positive state of mind, not to give up, keep them motivated, keep them lifted emotionally, because like you said, there's issues going on at home where, they can't decide what they're gonna, how they're gonna function. And there's a lot of broken homes because someone is out working.
Absolutely. And you brought another good point here. And we were talking about this, right now. So of course the kids' last day was Friday. Us teachers would have a full week of meetings and things.
Mhm.
And one of the things they were talking about was, making our lessons, reality based, or bring it to the real world for them. Well, of course, what do you hear all the time? When am I ever going to use this? Of course, I'm like, hey guys, let me tell you. Number one, even though I'm not a math teacher, let me tell you what happens if, how many of you here think you want to join the military? We got some that do, and I know that, and they raise their hand. I'm like, all right. So let me tell you, if you are in combat and you've got 150 enemy about to overrun your position and they're only 200 yards away, you're going to have to call in artillery fire or mortar fire. And guess what that requires? And I show them on the board. Distance, the arc of a parabellum. You're going to have to know
Oh, yes.
how an arc travels, distance, time, if the enemy's moving. And guess what happens if you get that math wrong when it's within 200 yards? Those shells are falling right on you and your friends, and that's your fault for
Absolutely.
not learning math.
You should teach those kids a fire and wire diagram too.
Just make
And
sure
so
they know that it's not all modern warfare.
of course, they
They
also
know.
like to say that, oh, well, I'm going to be a cook. I'm not going to need, English. Oh, really? Well, did you ever drive up the road there and see that big picture of this is, I'm trying to think, what's the name of the guy who started Texas Roadhouse? It's his Louisville. Texas Roadhouse started right here. Their headquarters are in Louisville.
Correct.
Texas Roadhouse. It didn't start in Texas. And he had to write out in good English his business proposal. There were 3 doctors that fronted him the money for his startup, and they were from here in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, Hardin County.
Wow.
Hold on, why did Texas Roadhouse start in Kentucky?
Because he went out west and got an idea, for the concept, and thought he brought the Roadhouse idea back. But yeah, he had trained all over as a cook, as a chef, and he cut his teeth out
on a
west.
napkin, I heard.
Yeah, and wrote his idea on a napkin. But then, still, you need that business proposal write up later, because once you write in the napkin, like I told them, they're going to want hard numbers. Yeah, you're talking to doctors. They're going to want the math too. You're like, oh, what's your electric cost going to be? What's your, yeah. So you have to write a business proposal. I was telling them, and even as a cook, if you want to be a cook, you're going to want to be a chef. And if you want to be a chef, yeah. So, but that's still, it's all here in its real world. Real quick shout out. I see we got Tom Armstrong on here. He says, greetings, folks. Tom's one of my buddies up there in Louisville. And we like to go to the range and things together. But he's also a very good bicycle mechanic. Does great stuff there for the family on that. We're indebted to him. Now, but you've also hit on one of the really big things here we got to talk about in this next segment. So the IDC mindset and your economy, folks that are watching, So here's how I want to connect those two things: my independent duty corpsman training and the economic reality of Hardin County, because I think this is the heart of why I'm running. As an independent duty corpsman, I learned something that no business school teaches and no trust fund prepares anyone for. I learned how to triage. I learned how to look at a complicated, messy, as Beloy said, chaotic situation with limited resources and, of course, real human beings right there on the line. And I had to figure out what matters most in each situation. What comes next? What absolutely you cannot cut if you want people to survive. And wouldn't you guys say that was your job as an independent duty corpsman all the time?
Yeah, I would say though, personally, we stole a lot of shit.
I couldn't do that.
Like, who didn't go to the hospital and start rifling through their drawers?
Well, that was begging Peter to pay Paul, right?
We had to. Might not apply in this situation, but
Yeah. Well, with Marines, yeah. When I was on the ship, that was more of asking other people on other ships, hey, do you have some that are in good shape? I'm about to deploy. But
yeah, we
yeah,
never had money.
of course, that's still all part of it is the whole triage idea. Of course, that's not a word that I know sounds warm and political, but it's the most honest description of how local government operates too, that I can think of. I look at the fiscal court here, it's constantly triaging what they can do, what they can't do, while still trying to maximize the biggest benefit for the county. So, of course, a county magistrate, they don't run a hospital. We used to, we don't now.
Oh
But a county
man.
magistrate does run a budget, and a county magistrate makes decisions about where the money goes, roads, infrastructure, EMS services, emergency response services, and those decisions have real consequences, of course, for real families right here in the county. Now, when a county government wastes money on and things go wrong,
Texas floods, the
there we
fires in
go.
LA.
There we go.
All right, careful. Y'all about to start talking. You're gonna give me a spiel
Or
because
they, of
you're
course,
cutting off FEMA. That
yeah,
means that if you cutting off that support that people are supposed to get in the county, what's going to happen is insurance rates are going to rise on your
there we go.
homes.
There we
So
go.
if that happens, you aren't able to afford the home that you're in, and you're going to end up renting.
That's right.
That's what
And
they
our,
There's a
want.
mortgage rate on
yeah,
top of the
yeah.
insurance rates and everything on that. You're not going to be able to afford it.
That's what they
So you're
want.
talking
And
about
that's
working
the
families
whole
paying the
idea.
price, right?
Yes. Getting businesses to own these homes where you can rent. And I get it. I see what they're doing. It's kind of smart, but it hurts my pockets
But
when
Yeah,
it's
my insurance rate
diabolical.
goes up. You
yeah.
know, it's smart, but it's just it hurts.
And
Uh,
so
you have to look
now,
at both sides of the coin.
totally both sides of the coin. So when a county government wastes money on the wrong things, are they captured by the interests of people who don't live like the rest of us? Well, again, that's back to those working families. They're just going to pay the price. When an independent duty corpsman wastes resources on the wrong interventions, well, patients paid the price.
Yep.
We've probably seen that happen before. Not in our case because we were great independent duty corpsmen, but we all heard stories. Now, I spent 24 years, of course, learning not to waste resources. That was the biggest thing. And we're describing that. Now, I spent 24 years learning how to prioritize the people who are the most vulnerable. I spent 24 years learning how to give that honest counsel to the people in authority above me. And that was, of course, what you talked about earlier. That was our training,
Yep.
even when they didn't want to hear it. And gosh, whoever wanted to hear from an E6 as, an independent duty corpsman, they
We're
didn't.
not built to be yes men or women.
Yeah, that's right. Because, the decisions, these decisions that we're talking about, they affected lives. And we couldn't be yes men and yes women when people's lives were on the line, as they were every day in these, reports we had to give and these
And when it
assessments.
came into that, like you're touching on that, when it came into that and they were above you, when they made you make that choice, you said, hey, write this memo and sign your
That's
name.
right.
You said
Exactly.
this,
Yep.
and you made me do it against what I said.
That's exactly
And
it.
then you hold them to the fire. They might change. They'll change your mind.
And that's what I want folks to understand. That's what I'm going to bring to the Hardin County Fiscal Court. They elect me. It's not going to be smooth talk. It's going to be no campaign promises, but I'll forget the day after the election. No, I'm going to remember what I promise you. And once that election's over, you can hold me to it. It's the hard-earned, battle-tested judgment of somebody who has seen what happens when leadership fails people who are counting on it. And that's
Absolutely.
what we know that from our military experience. So y'all, we're coming out of segment 5. We're going to now get to what Liz has been chomping at the bit for. We're going to talk about Trump honestly and with respect. Okay, I know it's going to be
You
tough,
got to
but
make it
first,
political.
let's go ahead and look at a little bit of news. Take a little news break. We'll come
All right,
right
let me
back
hit this
to.
lower while y'all doing on the break.
All right. So right now, did you see, Liz? Moments ago, this is something saying that the Iran military is putting this out there, that two Iranian Navy speedboats were targeted by hostile fighter jets. So they're trying to claim martyrdom. Well, I've been actually surrounded by some of their bigger ships before in the or little boats like that
Mm-hmm.
in the first Gulf War when I was on a fast frigate. That's nothing that I want to see. So hey, I'm glad
Yeah.
that they good on our jets.
Wait, I thought their navy was demolished though.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. We thought they were already taken care of, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Weird.
Yes. Yes. Quite strange. Well, so I
I meant
want
to look it up. But how many data centers are in Kentucky? Because that's like the hot button issue right now.
that's a huge hot button issue, and that's one. There was a heritage family farm up in northern Kentucky. They were offered ungodly amounts of money for their heritage farm that's been, in their family since Daniel Boone, came or
Mhm.
before, maybe even before Daniel, when they were the originals. And they were thinking about it first, but the lady's mom's like, hey, what am I going to do? How am I going to go walk out to the family grave and pay honor to our ancestors, And she said more things, and like, nope, we're not selling. And so they're now going to Eastern Kentucky, where folks are a lot poorer, and that's where half of my family's from, and that's where my mom lives right now. And that is, you're talking about folks that, um, the coal industry has been out there for years,
Yeah,
um,
hello, baby.
and that's on its way down. And so people are looking for anything. It's horrible. Yeah.
In
Well,
Utah, they're claiming eminent domain and essentially pushing people out. They're telling
that's
some people you need to go get utilities from some other place effective immediately,
yep.
and they're telling other people, "Hey, we're taking your damn property."
And I've actually done a whole segment on that. I need to do another one. I'll hopefully have you back if you guys will come back. Well, right now let's get back to Captain Bone Spurs. Oh, okay, I said I was going to be respectful, so I want to address
You
something for
can't
you.
be respectful. That guy's trash. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to try to be
Sorry.
just a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a little decorum, a little.
Yeah, just a little decorum. So I want to address something, of course, directly, and I'm going to ask you to stay with me just for a few minutes, even if your first instinct is to reach for that skip button. For those of that listening, I know that a lot of folks in Hardin County voted for Donald Trump. I know that. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I'm not going to insult people for doing that. People had their reasons, and in a lot of cases, those reasons came from a real and legitimate frustration, of course, with the way things have been going on in Washington. Frustration that, frankly, I share. Now, the political class on both sides of the aisle spent decades talking about working people, working for someone else. I get it. But here's what I have to tell you: neighbor to neighbor, veteran to neighbor, teacher to parent. The economic policies coming out of Washington under Donald Trump are hurting the working families of Hardin County, and the numbers don't lie.
They're hurting everybody everywhere.
Everywhere, for sure. And let's start with the tariffs. The Trump tariffs, and there have been several rounds of them, have been called by economists the largest tax increase as a percentage of the gross domestic product since 1993. Let that sink in for a second. In 2025, those tariffs cost the American household about $1,000. Add in the new rounds in 2026, and you're looking at an additional $700 on top of that, 1,000. So that's not a tax on China. That's a tax on you and me. Because when tariffs raise the cost of imported goods, it's the American consumer who pays it at the register. And that's just, of course, we know that. We feel it. Now, Kentucky's own Senator Mitch McConnell, I like to call him Moscow Mitch, but again, I'm trying to be
Oh, the
nice.
turtle guy?
Yeah. He's not exactly a Democrat,
Sorry.
right? He called tariffs a flawed policy and a tax on working Americans. Can you believe that's the guy who said that? And he said that Kentucky would be among the states hit the hardest. And it was. Look at our Kentucky bourbon industry. And of course, I'm sipping some right now. I wish you guys were here to have some with me.
Ooh,
But
Right?
it's
you
one
ain't
of the
right.
genuine economic bright spots on this
You ain't right.
Commonwealth. And it's been hit with retaliatory tariffs from other countries who respond to Trump's moves. Now, when we can't sell the bourbon overseas, man, the distilleries hurt. I don't know if you guys heard, but Jim Beam, they're not producing this year. They're not putting anything else in the rick house, which is they're full.
I
And
mean,
that's, you know,
that what you're talking about ties into a lot of things. They Canada won't even sell American alcohol.
well, no,
They
they
don't
were
want
one of the
American alcohol
biggest
because
buyers of bourbon that's hitting Kentucky. They loved American bourbon. And, I lived in Montana. I went up to Canada quite a bit. I deployed to Newfoundland. There you go. There you go. There you go. Well, of course, the distilleries, when they hurt, the coopers hurt. Those are the people who make the barrels, make the barrel rings. The truck drivers, they hurt. Barley farmers hurt. The workers in every part of the supply chain going up and down, they're hurt. So that supply chain, it runs right through our part of Kentucky, right here. I'm in the middle of bourbon heaven and country. Of course, then there's the gas prices. Here, I talked about this on a previous episode, but we'll just say it again because it's that important. Since the U.S.-Israel war on Iran began in late February this year, Kentucky gas prices went up 45%. Diesel prices went up 50%, just about. That's not a global abstraction, that's a reality. So the difference between a family making it to the end of the month and a family not making it at all, there you go. This is part of it. Every 18-wheeler on Dixie Highway that runs right through here that's paying $5 a gallon for diesel, it's going to pay that cost onto the stores it delivers to. And of course, I'm only 3 miles from Interstate 65. And the stores are going to pass, of course, on to you and me. Grocery prices, as you said, Deloy, they're rising. Everything that gets delivered is getting more expensive. The economists are warning us that the fallout from this, it's not just going to be something we can walk away from tomorrow. What do you guys think?
Ooh, you touched on a lot. Affordability is key, and right now the focus is not on affordability.
No,
The focus is on
that's a
everything.
Democratic hoax, right? Affordability.
You don't
That's
want
what.
to touch. They don't want to hear anything about how people are not making ends meet or they can't afford. They've always compared this as, oh, we're in the greatest economy ever. No, maybe for you personally, and
Yeah.
you can sit there and give up your salary. Say you give up your salary, but no, you gave up your salary because your company's made money.
Yep.
Everything about you and your portfolio made it, but you're not going to take the government salary because you're going to bypass that because you're going to go ahead and, I guess, give back to America. I know
Make
my
so
taxes.
much more. Yeah.
I owe, and I'm paying quarterly. I'm paying to pay back my taxes, and it's rough. I'm sorry, it is rough.
It's very rough. And what we're seeing right now in the grocery store is not going to be the worst of it because those diesel prices are spiking and we got to pay for that, the supply chain cost of that. I haven't even hit on the fact that here in Hardin County, we got so many farmers that they couldn't even afford the we know that urea also comes through the Strait of Hormuz, right?
Mhm.
and what do they got to put in the field? That's a big part of it, you know. So the cost of that went way up, and so a lot of farmers are having to decide: do I put fertilizer on this year, or I just skip it, hope that it grows without it, because they can't even fill up all their diesel tanks that they need to fill up to get those combines running, you know, and tractors running around. And that's a huge crunch right here in this county.
It's huge.
And that's, we're going to have to pay for
Tariffs,
that at the grocery store, you know,
tariffs have to be paid back, but who are they getting paid back to?
us. It is a tax, just
Corporations.
like, yep, it's a
Yeah,
tax
they're
on
not
us.
coming back
We
to
pay it back.
us.
You know,
That
no,
money
it's
is
a
going
tax
back to corporations who passed on the tariff cost to us.
Did you get your tariff refund that he told us we were going to get?
No, it's going to the pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial.
No, I thought it was going to the Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody wants that
Or
shit.
is it the UFC?
Or is it the UFC? I don't know.
Yeah. Something like that. But
Yeah.
I will tell you guys, this is all, to me, it's a distraction from everything I've been hearing over the past couple of weeks is all a distraction to keep you from what was the source of what people wanted to know. Every time we hear is just something new, and I'm going to try and distract you from talking about this over here. We're going to talk about everything else that's happening: affordability, gas prices, war. I'm going to scare you, but I'm not going to let you touch this. And it doesn't stop.
Well,
Yes,
and you're hitting on the biggest thing. The cost that you and I, you know, the three of us know is this cost right here. The U.S. casualties, you know, in the war in Iran, they're rising as military strikes begin again. So I heard one of my favorite right-wing military guys, that's Valhalla, VFT, and Sean, I was watching the Sean Ryan show. They were saying that the casualties now at what, 15? It's not 13 anymore.
Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, that's, you know, yeah, that's absolutely just ludicrous. And that brings me into my next segment, because we've got to talk about that big ugly bill. You know, I'm sorry, I call it the big ugly bill. I know he called it the big beautiful bill, and what it means for Hardin County. Because I want to talk about something I believe, of course, is the most important economic issue facing working families right here in Hardin County right now. And that's the one that has not gotten enough attention on a local level. But since every one of us here, you know, we practiced medicine for years, let's talk about what is going to happen to the American that can't afford their medical care anymore. Because July 2025, DJT, old Captain Bone Spurs, signed what he called the one big beautiful bill. I call it the big ugly bill. What it does, it stripped all the marketing language off of it. It's this: it cut hundreds of billions of dollars from SNAP, of course, that's food stamps, and from Medicaid and Medicare to pay for tax cuts that primarily benefit the wealthiest Americans and corporations. So
I just want to know, I'm sorry, I just want to know, how are you going to serve 2 terms as a president and not have any medical plan? Like, how is that possible?
Well, remember, he's had the concept of a plan since his first term, remember? Because he kept talking about getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, which this effectively does. But he's had the concept of a plan since his first term. So
I just,
2017, 2018.
Spencer D, just tell me, like, if we showed up to a deadline meeting and said, I have a concept of a plan, would you not get your face ripped off?
Oh yeah. Are you, what is your medical plan for this deployment? What is our, what are we looking at? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about life and death. This guy is over here telling us that we have concepts of a plan for the last, what?
Like say, oh, you made me stop my YMCA dance to talk about my plan. What?
These people are telling us what they're about. He said he doesn't care. He doesn't think about our affordability issues.
Well, let's get into the hard numbers about those affordability issues. Because yeah, he says he doesn't care, and that's just a Democratic hoax. Well, it's not.
Bannon, a minute ago, you were talking about all this new stuff coming out day after day, which is causing fatigue for all of us. But
Yeah,
Steve Bannon straight up told us we're gonna flood the system, and
that's right.
we're gonna do exactly what's happening now. Like
Yeah,
they tell us what they are, and people still don't believe it.
that's the problem. They're gonna because the SNAP cut. Well, that amounted to about 187 billion by 2034. That's about 20% reduction in the entire program. Now, more than 22 million families nationwide, they could lose, man, all of their food stamp benefits. That, of course, we already saw a round of this when they did the shutdown, and the average affected family could lose their food assistance by about $146 a month. You know, we're right here in Fort Knox. You know as well as I do, there are people who need SNAP, and they're on active duty in the military. You know?
Yeah, those junior guys with the dependos and the hot rod.
Yeah. Well, even some of those who
To
weren't, just like the
me, all
pregnant
this,
mothers, that
we're going
need
to end
that.
up, what is going to end up is happening. It's going to be a purge.
And I don't
Like
want to see
the movie Purge.
that.
You're going to get rid of all the poor people. And I mean, it's getting that
Yeah.
bad.
Well, and I was just over in a part of Hardin County today. Went to see my well, for lack of a better word, I was my gunsmith, and I had to drive through this section that I recalled my principal made when I worked at North Hardin High School. All of us new folks, we had to hop on the bus in the heat of July, ride the bus the same way the kids rode it, windows down because there's no air conditioning, mask on, and then we rode through every part of the county, where the buses could go. From the couple areas, around Radcliffe, there were, some affluent people living, to the trailer park areas that I thought I was the only one who ever lived like that as a kid, But $146 a month for those families,
It's huge.
yeah. So we got families in Hardin County. That's already they're already just living right on the edge. I've seen it, and I've seen them in my classrooms, when I taught here. And that's not a number on a spreadsheet for them. That's a week's worth of groceries. Not even that, for if they got more than 3 people in the house. It's that is school lunches. And that's the difference between kids going to bed with a full tummy or going to bed hungry. And I see hungry kids in my classrooms sleepy every day because they tried to go to sleep when they were still having knots in their stomach, and it took them forever if they even did get to sleep. Instead, they finally get something to eat in the morning when they come to school, and then fall asleep in school. That's what that looks like to me. So it makes it
what's
really
so sad?
personal for me.
You know what's sad? The Black Panthers started feeding school children, and they
Yep.
were targeted for doing that.
Yes. My cousin told me about seeing that back in the 70s when he was out in
Yes,
Frisco.
the government is not working for us. It has
No.
not been working for us. Truly, not just talking shit. Like,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're gonna like have all these pet projects, make a ballroom and whatever state of the art bullshit you got below it,
Like you
and
said, have the cage
pool,
fights
the
on the lawn.
Yeah, if
What they're doing right now.
you're
Well,
not spending money on the people, and the people need it, especially now. Prices are going up. You cannot say, I don't think about, people are like trying to explain away why Trump said, I don't think about people's affordability or people, having a hard time with money. And they try to
exactly it.
explain it away like, oh, he cares about it. No, he is
No.
telling you what he is.
Well, this same bill, it expanded Medicaid work requirements to cover adults all the way up to age 64.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you and I know plenty of veterans who were so debilitated from their service, but maybe they for some reason didn't get everything they should have from the VA. And if they're going to look for Medicaid and they're going to have a work requirement,
Yep.
all the way up to age 64, that's just cruel. The Congressional Budget Office, it's projecting an additional 11.8 million Americans could be uninsured by 2034 because of this legislation.
Yes.
What do we think of that as medical providers? Folks who, we didn't have to worry about whether folks in the Navy would get paid for their treatment. Can you imagine if we did, how that would have been?
They are cutting social programs across the board. They're cutting programs for working people. And they're giving rich people tax breaks. So what does that say to you? Like, all of us are out here struggling, and some far more than others.
Yeah, those working poor are really struggling.
Yes,
that's a reality. 600,000 Kentuckians were receiving SNAP assistance just as recently as June of last year, when we had that shutdown. In Kentucky, we have experts who say, oh, the food security, they've been sounding the alarm forever, and they say it's a huge hit to hungry people right here in our state. But I just got to ask folks a question, what do you think about those 600 Kentuckians? Who do you think they are? They're not sitting on yachts. They're not playing golf at Mar-a-Lago. They're working people. They're elderly people. They're disabled veterans.
Yep. That's all they're doing is taking.
And they're single parents, of course, working two jobs often, like I see my students' parents, and they still can't make ends meet in this economy. And it's been, like you said, stacked against them for decades. But they are Hardin County. And that's what I want folks to, think about. The bill that cuts their food assistance, well, that's $3.4 trillion to the national deficit over the next decade, according to the Congressional Budget Office. That bill, we're going into the hole now, and we got this big ugly bill. So we're going to borrow $3.4 trillion, charge it to our kids and grandkids to give tax cuts to the people who are already super rich, and we're going to at the same time cut food from the tables of people who are already struggling, like you're saying. What do you think of that, Deloy?
Well, the economy's great. It's beautiful.
That's right. But the Dow. All right, that was what Bondi said.
It just came back to me. Deloy was always hard to read because I'm like, what? Are you being serious right now?
I mean, I will tell you, having the experience I've had working Social Security, seeing how people have a need, having experience working now for Department of Justice, and just the atrocities that are being done, I'm mind blown that they pick these people that think like them, they grab them from wherever and they transfer them, and then
where he grabs them from, because he can do it. He said because he's famous.
Yeah, as long as you're on my team, I'm gonna grab you exactly, and I'm gonna put you here, and I'm gonna pay you. I'm gonna get you paid from the government to do me a favor and make me richer. Find a way to clean up my act, clean up my image, and make me richer. And I tell you, it hurts. It really hurts to see this. And it's kind of like, it goes against my ethics, but how we're trained, we're supposed to, respect the position, not the person. So you have to do your job.
That's, yeah. Boy, didn't we hear that a lot in the military?
Yeah. You don't have to like the person, but you got to respect the position. So
unless they're real effed up, and then you gotta say something. That's just me.
Exactly it.
There's a lot of stuff that's happening that just won't stop.
Because the position should not outweigh the people that it's supposed to serve. That's supposed to serve.
100%.
Of course, I spent, like I said, those 6-7 years at the VA watching veterans fight for benefits that they had earned throughout their service, just like we had in this country. They made us a promise, the one big ugly bill is Washington breaking that promise to the folks who can afford it the least.
Nonstop.
Now, as a Navy independent duty corpsman, of course, we were trained to do the opposite. I was trained that you never abandon the patient. You assess, you stabilize, you fight like hell to get them to a higher level of care. And you do not look at the patient who needs you the most and decide it's too inconvenient to help them.
Correct.
Of course, that's not leadership, and that's cowardice wearing a suit and a big red tie.
Well, there's always like you're sending these people for all kinds of imaging and labs, and yes, it is not my money and they deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Careful. I got in trouble
Absolutely.
for doing that.
Yeah. I had a few
I got
talking
talked
tos
to.
also, but guess what? Like I discovered, I'm sure all three of us have discovered cancers and all kinds of things that
Oh, yeah.
are life
Yeah.
threatening for people. And
Oh,
I give two shits
yeah.
about worrying
Yeah.
about money. Like I'm gonna exhaust all resources to make sure these people are okay. And that's
Save
what
someone's
our
life.
politicians should be doing. But they're not.
Nope. We're supposed to save the orange one, for the ballroom.
Now
It's
you're
safe enough to have
starting.
that cage match outside, right? On the south lawn, out in the open. But yeah.
I hope people are getting tired of this. I really hope they are, because those who are not are just they're voting against their own interests.
Well, speaking against tired, you're bringing me right segue into this seventh segment, and that's what Main Street looks like in Hardin County, and of course over all the nation. But first, let's look at someone who has been so very tired. I'm not sure if our apparently we are wearing out our commander in chief. He's working so hard for us that he cannot stay awake during a ceremony to honor the dead at Arlington.
It began as Decoration Day, when widows and orphans and other mourners placed flowers and ribbons on some 20,000 graves. They were soldiers once, and as they marched off to
Right
battle,
back to
they
sleep.
sang the lines of the hymn. This day began.
Right back to sleep.
He
All
was
right,
You guys
it's
just
not
seen that
slow
one
even
already?
blinking.
great.
He was
The
just
parade
blinking,
that
bro, like for 10 minutes.
Oh man. So of course, so again, Main Street versus Wall Street, or what Main Street looks like, on here in Elizabethtown, over in any of our towns here, Colesburg, right outside Fort Knox there in Radcliffe. But let's ground this conversation in something real, because what Main Street looks like in Hardin County is people running for public office they need to know, and I know it really well. We got a population here in Hardin County about 113,000 people, and our median household income is right around 67,600.
Shit, that's more
That
than I
sounds
make.
okay until you start doing the math on what it actually costs to live here. The average family has 2 cars, because you have to in a county like this. You can't go anywhere without one. It's a pretty big county. The average commute's about well over 22 minutes. I drive 45 minutes to work every day. Most people drive alone to work. So when the gas goes up, that 45% we talked about, if you're using regular gas, or 50% if you're using diesel, that's not a minor inconvenience, for any of the Hardin County families. It's a structural hit to a budget that was already tight. Now, of course, there's about 13% of our residents, that's more than 14,000, that live below the poverty line. That's higher than the national average. And 8% of Hardin County families, not individuals, live in poverty. That's just not one person, but a whole family in poverty. Like I said, that school bus ride we had to take really showed me that when I first, came back and started teaching here. So 11% of our population is living with what researchers call a severe housing problem. Again, I've seen it. Overcrowding, substandard conditions, and paying more than half their income on housing. that number has been rising. And again, when I rode through those parts of this county and saw kids in the yards where their trailer was just basically a shell. It wasn't even it had been something you could call a trailer 30, 40 years ago, but not now. So I'm not talking about abstract economics. These are our neighbors. These are the parents of the kids that I used to teach, but very similar to the kids I still teach. And then look at Fort Knox. That's the beating economic heart of this county. It's really what keeps us afloat during hard times, and it generates about $2.6 billion in annual economic impact right here, and supports more than 27,000 jobs off post. So military families who live here, who shop at our stores, eat at our restaurants, and send their kids to our schools, they're feeling every bit of this economic squeeze just like everyone else. Of course, all of us, we've been those families, we're retired now, but we know what it's like. A junior
I
enlisted
was on
soldier.
WIC. I was
Thank
E4
you.
with 2 kids. I was on WIC.
There you go. So that you were that junior enlisted person living off
I couldn't
post.
figure out why I was getting pregnant.
Well, they live off post here in Radcliffe, and some of them even here, in Elizabethtown. But those junior folks usually live in Radcliffe because it's real close. But they're not immune to that 45% spike in gas prices. I'm sure you weren't, back in your, when you're talking about being E4. So a DOD civilian employee commuting from Elizabethtown, they're not immune to the rising grocery costs either. So when I'm talking about Main Street, I'm talking about every single one of them. Now, as veterans, I think that we've got a soft spot for communities like this, because we've got a lot of veterans that have left the Army or whatever. Actually, there's some Marines that were stationed Fort Knox too, because this was a tanker base. They've come out here and they've started some great businesses, veteran-owned businesses. And I go right. If you ever visit here, guys, there's a running shop here where I buy my Hokas. That's my new shoe since plantar fasciitis kicked in. But he's right on the square, and it's called Running Soles, SOLES. Yeah, great veteran-owned business. And then right across the street from him, there's a veteran who's getting ready to retire. But I can't remember if he's still active duty at HRC in Fort Knox or if he's actually retired from it. But anyway, he and his family, they started a vinyl record store. So I go in there and get some vinyl. Yeah, I'm gonna have some of them up on the wall here soon. As you see behind me, I'm kind of remodeling. And then right next door to them is a small business where they sell used books and new books. So I've started using them instead of Barnes and Noble, which we also have in town. I still like. But yeah, veterans, we feel it, and we've got that fixed income. And if we're starting small businesses like these guys are, this is not helping them.
Yep.
We need folks to be able to spend that money that has now got sunk into that gas tank. It should have been $35. Like I said, was $75 last night.
It's just like a chain of command. You advocate for your people and you push your problems up. They push it up until it gets to the governor, and all the governors get together and do their thing. But that's what's your job.
Fiscal court. That's why I'm asking. Yeah. So, and we know is IDCs. That's bringing us to segment 8. What an independent duty corpsman would do differently. So let's bring this back around to why it matters that you here in Hardin County have an IDC mindset in the magistrate seat. County magistrate, of course, is not the president or the governor, but it is a form of government. And I cannot set trade policy. I can't control the oil markets and that Strait of Hormuz as much as I'd like to. But what I can do is make sure that Hardin County government is run with the same discipline, the same prioritization of the most vulnerable, and the same hard-nosed honesty that we've been talking about all night here, that I applied every day when I was the only medical officer on a ship. Of course, we weren't officers, but so we acted in that position as if we were. Now, here's what that looks like in practice. First, it means fiscal responsibility that serves working people, not connected insiders. Transparency. County government spends taxpayers' money. That money belongs to the families of Hardin County, not to whoever has the right relationships in the right places. Every dollar needs to go where it does the most good. Roads that working people drive on. Infrastructure that supports small businesses, including those veteran-owned businesses we're talking about. And emergency services that protect our communities. Of course, that means a lot to me, the fact that I will get to be a part of making sure that our EMS folks here in this town have what they need, since EMS was my bread and butter, our bread and butter here in the show. Second, it means advocating loudly and without apology for Fort Knox and the military community. That $2.6 billion economic engine, well, it doesn't run itself, and it doesn't protect itself from Washington budget cuts or political neglect. And we saw that with the shutdown. People who worked there, who retired there, who built lives here because of Fort Knox, they deserve a magistrate who fights for them, and I will do that. Third, it means telling the truth about what's coming. An IDC doesn't sugarcoat a diagnosis that makes a patient feel better in the moment. You tell them exactly what they're dealing with, because only then can you fight it together. The economic pressure on Hardin County, well, those pressures are real and they're not going to go away on their own. Working families deserve a local official who will say that out loud and actually do something about it in the fiscal court. Fourth, it means remembering who I work for. In the Navy, my patient was the sailor or Marine standing right in front of me. Not the Admiral, not the Pentagon, the sailor and the Marine. In Hardin County, my constituent is the person filling their tank on Dixie Highway, the teacher in the classroom here in this county, the farmer in Cecilia, or over there in Colesburg, trying to figure out this year's input costs, the veteran in Bradcliffe waiting for a VA appointment, in Fort Knox, that's where, of course, the Radcliffe folks go. We go in that Fort Knox VA appointment. Or we even have to commute to Louisville. Well, I'm going to remember them. These are my people, and these will always be my people. All right, y'all. Before we go on to segment 9, which is to the Trump voters, a direct conversation, let's just go take one final look at how magnificently, Diaper Don did there at Arlington. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw this segment, guys, but it was amazing. Tell me what you think. This is the wreath ceremony. Did you guys ever get to do this? Liz, did you go over there and watch that this year?
Not this year. I would have been like, "You're a piece of shit." No.
Watch this and tell me what you think. What's he? Okay, so yeah, he's all right.
Staring at it. What the fuck is going on?
Is he dozing off while standing? I mean, I did that in maybe once or twice.
God.
That's reflection.
Is that reflection? Is that a closed-eyed reflection?
Yes.
You are so nice, D.
Yes.
You see that what he said?
Oh,
yeah. Okay. All right. So shook it. Okay. Nodded the head. Okay. Got it.
What was that
right.
for? I don't understand. Oh man, they look good. They always look good. I used to take my sailors there.
Yeah, it's awesome to go see anything there at Arlington for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I just, again, like I said, this segment is to the Trump voters, and it's my direct conversation, because, like I say, I respect anyone in their right to vote for who they feel will serve their interests the best.
There are people too.
You're better
I want
than
to come
me.
back to something I mentioned earlier because I don't want to leave it as a throwaway line, though. If you voted for Donald Trump, I'm not your enemy. I'm not going to try to spend this campaign pretending that you don't exist or try to shame you for your vote. I'm just not going to do it. I've been in combat. I know what it means to depend on the person next to you, regardless of who they voted for, regardless of what they believe about anything other than getting the mission done and getting everybody home. So it's not a metaphor for me. This is the literal experience of my life. But what I'm asking you to do, what I'm respectfully, earnestly asking is just to look at what has actually happened to your wallet since January 2025. Look at the gas prices. Look at the grocery store. Look at what that big, ugly bill, you can call it beautiful if you want to, does to people in this county who depend on SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, and who depend on the VA medical, which has been slashed and burned. Now then ask yourself, did the Trump family's net worth go up or did it go down during all of this? I know what it means to work for a living. You know what it means to work for a living. I started at the bottom of the enlisted ranks and spent over 20 years earning every promotion through my service. I watched my VA salary. I tracked my pension contributions to a T. I know what it means to make a budget and stick to it and sometimes come up short anyway and figure out what you're going to do next. We kind of talked about that earlier and joked about it, right, guys? But the Trump family has never had to make these calculations in their life. Not one day in their lives. $50 million given to a 20-year-old just a week or two before the war started to invest in petroleum. Their wealth was handed to them, not earned. That 20-year-old did not earn that $50 million. Their losses were covered by lawyers and accountants and bankruptcy courts time after time after time. When they talk about the economy, man, they're talking about a world that has nothing to do with Hardin County, Kentucky, or anywhere else in the United States. I'm talking about this county right here. I'm talking about your county. And I'm asking for the chance to serve it. All right. So
I would endorse you,
guys,
my brother.
you endorse me? All
I
right.
endorse
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. So
I'd have to register over there and then vote for you.
Yeah.
But I will say, I don't live in Kentucky, but hey, you know that, you know what's up.
I do know that
right.
you got your degree from the University of Louisville, right?
That's right. Yes, sir. So
yeah,
I'm all about it.
we got a lot of divided houses here.
Doing, and I want to see you succeed. I would love to see you in there because it's not an easy task, but I know you got it because you care. You actually give a damn.
And you have the heart for it. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate it. So you guys are now segueing me into my last segment.
I was about
And
to
that's
say.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What those words mean to me, because I know that we carried those everywhere we went. So I want to close this out with something very, very personal, and that is the fact that I stand for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Those aren't just campaign talking points to me. They're not bumper sticker slogans. Those are words I took very seriously, as I know my fellow sailors here did too. When I raised my right hand and I swore an oath, I swore an oath to defend the Constitution. And that was an oath I renewed at every reinvestment until my over 20 years was complete. Now,
In the only enlisted corps in the Navy. Oh, yeah.
There you go. And only enlisted corps in all the military. So life,
Tribute.
that's what I fought for every time that I treated that patient that was scared and hurting and needed someone to tell them they weren't going to be left alone. Life means that every person in Hardin County, regardless of their income, their political affiliation, because it's not about left versus right anymore, their background, everyone deserves the basic conditions that allow them to live life with dignity. Liberty. That's what I went to that first Gulf War for. That's what I went to Afghanistan for. Liberty means freedom to build a life, to build a business, to build a future without a rigged economic system that is constantly pulling the rug out from underneath you while the people at the top write the rules to benefit themselves. And while they write the rules to get out from under the rules that they wrote themselves.
Mm.
The pursuit of happiness. That one's the most important to me. That we cannot guarantee everyone's happiness. I'm a realist. I'm a veteran. I know life is hard. But the pursuit, the honest chance to work hard and to get somewhere, to fill your tank and still make rent, to take your kids to the grocery store and not to have to put things back, to be able to take them to get that ice cream cone after you have them work hard on their chores.
Mhm.
You want to be able to do that. You want to be able to retire someday and know that you earned it because you did.
And not
That is
live
the
on the street.
pursuit this country promised every citizen. I'm sorry, what, Deloy?
And not excuse me for saying that, but not live on the street, be able to retire and have something.
Exactly. And not have to just rely on your kids. You want a real retirement. Like you said, to have something without living on the street. So it's that promise that working families in Hardin County are watching slip further and further away every year. I'm running for District 3 Magistrate because I believe that promise can be kept at the local level. One decision at a time by someone who has spent their entire life in service to others and knows what it costs to keep a promise to a person who needs you. I stand for Wall Street. Never. I will never stand for it. I stand up and fight for Main Street. That's who I stand for. Now, I do stand for that sailor at sick call at 3 a.m. who just needs someone to take care of him.
Who has sick call at 3 a.m?
Hey, I told
It's called P-Way medicine, bro.
I told my corpsman that there were two groups on the ship that I would break sick call hours for. And that was the engineers who worked 36 hours, 72 hours a day sometimes, and the deck seamen. Everyone else, keep sick call hours. But for them,
Yeah.
they needed it, or they were gonna pass out or die. It was that bad. But I also stand for the kids in my classroom whose parents are working 2 jobs and they're still coming up short. I stand for the veterans in Elizabethtown, in Radcliffe, in Cecilia, in Rhineyville, and you name me a small burg in this county where veterans live and thrive to the best of their ability and fought for this country. I stand for them because they deserve a community that will fight for them. I stand for Hardin County. And I humbly ask you to vote for me this November. So, God bless us, everyone.
I feel like you
Bless
should
you.
be standing on top of a giant rock with a cape fluttering. I know that
What's the name for that? Where you just have your little space and it's not pulpit. It's old school politics. We call it, you stand on a rock or something like that and you speak.
I believe that you'll advocate for people because that's what we do. We believe in humans. We believe in
Exactly. That's exactly
Everybody's
it.
just like, things are just very unnecessarily stressful right now. The amount of
Yes.
money that they're spending elsewhere on bullshit can be spent on people in this country.
Unnecessarily stressful, and we don't need to lose any more of our amazing veterans.
Our
If you
focus
guys
is
didn't
on.
know it, we lost two from right here. One of them was, um, you know, an amazing young man from Glendale, Staff Sergeant Pennington, and we lost Tech Sergeant Pruitt. She was in one of those tankers that you guys heard about. Went
Mm.
down, and I got to meet her parents, and I went up to the Penningtons, to thank them too at the Gold Star Memorial over the weekend. They had that. If you haven't seen the Gold Star Memorial Wall, it's travels the nation. They came here for the Memorial Day weekend, and got to look at you guys. No, don't know if you remember Daryl Enos. He was a class behind us in IDC school. He was with me in MARSOC.
Mhm.
He was on the wall there, and the
Exactly.
Benedict Gorman that, yeah, he was killed by some of the Afghan troops that turned their fire onto the American soldiers that
Mm.
were, or Marines that were fighting, along with them. Yeah, it was, fratricide, but yeah, it was tragic. Also, Staff Sergeant Roy, he was in the pipeline when I was going through MARSOC. Um, he was on the wall there too, along with many other MARSOC Marines and First Marine Division Marines. That I served with, Marines that you guys are with. So yeah, we don't need any more names on that wall right now. We don't need more added to it. So that's the cost that we're not going to forget. The
Mhm.
the gas cost is something else, but we've dealt with worse, like us, in combat. But it's that human cost that I've seen enough. Hey, did you guys see the slogan on my shirt here?
What is it? Looks like a beehive.
We stand alone together.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah.
the OAF Nation, slogan. And yeah, I know that we all are in that. We feel like we're alone and we're standing alone, but let's don't forget we're standing alone together. We've got each other, and I believe in community. I know that that's what we're all talking about. We're not the Lone Ranger, even though we feel like it. We feel like we're the Lone Ranger out in the prairie, but we're not. We're together. As lonely as it can be, like I say, as tough as it can be right now. So, y'all, I just want everyone to remember as we sign off here. What do you have anything? Last comments? I don't want to cut you off. Good. You guys. All right.
It was good
So,
to see you guys.
real good to see you guys.
Good to
And
see y'all guys.
Let's get
I
together,
want
Cindy.
Yeah.
I want us all to remember, those folks that are deployed overseas right now. Let's don't forget them. And let's all remember Kentucky's motto is united we stand, divided we fall. And if we realize it, that we're in it together, we are our neighbors, keeper. We're our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. We can't be divided. We can't fall. So bless your corazon. I know you two know what corazon means. And have a great rest of the week. And we'll roll out from here, if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, man. Good to see you.
Yes.
You too.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Thank you.
Beans plants are shipping cross country on refrigerated trucks. And third, they take higher cooked than modern bush beans. In the 50s and 60s, convenience became king and TV didn't. Soaking overnight got laid old-fashioned means it actually works. Your great-grandfather didn't grow scallop runners because they were tender. He grew them because when the bank foreclosed on farms across the